It's time, Cougar Nation. Cougar Tracks. The best season analysis with BYU insider Mitch Harper on KSL NewsRadio and on video every day on the YouTube page for KSL Sports.
Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL NewsRadio, your legacy home of the BYU Cougars. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. Appreciate all of you for being on board to the show. I've had some technical difficulties the past few days, so appreciate your patience. We're back to the usual schedule here on the program, and the bye week rolls on for BYU football, and that's where we start things off in the top story.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
Bye week number 2 for BYU football this season. Not common to have 2 bye weeks in a year. It only happens when week 1 of the season takes place in August. It's not going to happen for a handful of years. So last time we're going to see 2 byes in a season, but I think it's a much needed bye for this BYU football team, obviously, because the Cougars, no surprise, are a little bit nicked up and looking to, get healthy in preparation for that massive showdown against Texas Tech coming up. But this was Kalani Sitake on how they're approaching this second bye week of the season.
It's everything considering the individual. There's a lot of guys that need to develop and take advantage of this week to get better. And so if you want quality depth, you have to develop it too. And so, a lot of these guys are one play away from being in the game. So this is a big work week for them. Some guys, we know that they've been able to do it. They still need to stay in shape, but it's all specified to what our strength room wants them to do and what our coaches are willing to work with them. Everyone is working together on how to get these guys ready individually, and then collectively that makes the team better.
Getting everyone healthy will be important too. BYU head coach Kalani Sitake noted this week that they're still evaluating LJ Martin. Same can be said for offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick. He said as much on the coordinator's corner too. And LJ is critical, I think, for the long-term success of BYU this season. But I should note too, BYU is a team that is built to win despite whoever's in the game. BYU showing it this year at quarterback with Bear Bachmeier, when many thought, including myself, that there would be a little bit of a dip with the true freshman signal caller from a veteran and Jake Retzloff, who knew the playbook inside and out. There's been no dip. In fact, I think BYU is better this season with Bear Bachmeier, and the accolades are rolling in for the heralded freshman from Marietta, California. Bear was named the Manning Award Quarterback of the Week this week, and he was also named, which was, I thought, a fantastic award from this individual, Gus Johnson from Fox. America, this is how we do. He gave Bear Bachmeier the Got It Player of the Week. This was Gus Johnson with his Got It Player of the Week for Bear Bachmeier.
This week's one in the many in the one Got It player is BYU quarterback Bear Bachmeier. I'm putting this man on everyone's radar. They said starting as the first true freshman in BYU history was impossible. Too complex a system, too big a stage. But the Bear doesn't do fear, he hunts it. Say hello to Bear Force One. My man connects with his weapons, Parker Kingston, Chase Roberts, and his brother, Tiger. This kid doesn't just move the chains, he moves the energy in the building. On Saturday, he led the Cougars to a statement road win against Iowa State. Bear threw for 307 with 2 touchdowns and ran for another. Thanks to Bear, BYU is about to say hello to the college football playoff gauntlet. And that's why he's got it.
Sign me up. Bear Bachmeier, Bear Force One. Gus Johnson with the great name once again. It has been an amazing ride with Bear Bachmeier this season. He's passed for 1,693 yards, 11 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions, and those 3 picks were only in 2 games. So Bear has taken care of that football. Completion percentage, I think you'd like to see a little bit higher, 62.7% for Bear. Rushing yardage, 94 carries, 408 yards, 9 touchdowns. There's still 4 regular season games to go. Huge workload for Bear Bachmeier, and Kalani was asked about that workload this week, and he's not too fazed about it.
No, I mean the guy asks for more. So I think I said he has an appetite for more, and we're going to keep giving it to him. So it's good that he's named Bear with a strong appetite, and he's ready for it. I think the key would be what does he feel like he's really good at and that he feels comfortable with. That's we can take advantage of that during this week.
Been really impressed with Bear Bachmeier, and how can you not? Bear has immersed himself in BYU. The only thing that we were lacking since the Iowa State game was the post-game rap. My friend is Sonny, and he is funny. We need another post-game Bear rap that's so simple, yet it's art, it's poetry. Bear Bachmeier, Bear Force One. I think heading down the stretch, though, in all seriousness with Bear Bachmeier, I'm really curious to see how he continues to improve, because it feels like he's arrived. Like, what else is there to improve? I think that the depth of the playbook, sure, but watching this Aaron Roderick offense, it feels like Bear's been running every bit the offense, and that should be highlighted here. The things that Aaron Roderick and Kalani said in fall camp, it wasn't just coach speak. It's materializing in games. It's happening. So props to them. And I bring that up because there have been years where Aaron Roderick said, hey, we got better at every position 2 years ago. They didn't, and they only won 5 games. But maybe they did, though, in theory, when you look back on it, because that team kind of set the foundation for this incredible run that BYU football has been on since that game in Stillwater, the end of 2023. They upgraded the talent in many respects. It just took a little bit longer than that one season. But BYU is playing great, and Bear Bachmeier has been excellent. I still want to see a little bit more with that arm strength at times, but it's not being called upon. Like, he'll take his shots when appropriate. And if you can get big gains through the air on throwing 10-yard passes and then Chase Roberts and Parker Kingston are making it happen, great. There was that one pass to Parker that floated a little bit in the air. It almost felt like jackpot style, like jackpot. He throws it up and Parker goes up and gets the thing against Iowa State. But by all accounts, you love what you're seeing from Bear Bachmeier this season for BYU, and his effectiveness too in quarterback draws up the middle in the heart of the defense. You see a lot of running quarterbacks, they have to get off to the edge. Bear can just go up the middle because of his size. He can take the contact, but BYU, of course, needs to keep him healthy, and I think that's where this bye week is nice for not only this team, but Bear too. Bear needs to be well rested to get ready for the home stretch run, because this BYU team is in the mix to go to Arlington, and everything that they've aspired to reach for is in front of them this season, in large part because of Bear Force One. Ha ha! All right, let's take a break. Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube. Mitch Harper with you. Make sure to subscribe to Cougar Tracks wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. It would help out the show a ton. Yesterday, I was at the BYU Trick or Treat. I'm not going to lie. It was the first time in my life where it felt like my kids are feeling a little too old for trick-or-treating. They still dressed up, but they're acting like they're a little bit too old for it. I'm like, what is this? Why are they acting like they're just these cool kids? Anyway, all the athletic teams were there at the event, and Much better this year with the trick-or-treating on the concourse compared to last year. Last year was kind of a mess. It was all on the concourse, and it was not organized, and people were funneling in from all the different entrances inside the Marriott Center, and it made for a chaotic mess. This one started outside in that area right between the Annex and the Marriott Center, worked its way around, and then the Rev Generator Sports, football and men's basketball, they're inside in the controlled temperature environment at the Marriott Center. All the Olympic sport teams, you got to be outside and battle the cold. Was that a coincidence? I don't know, but it's just funny how that worked out. Saw a basketball team, Xavier Staten. He had a great costume. He had like a mask that was scary looking. He was tall top hat guy. Saw some football players as well. But it's always a good time. My kids got to see the women's basketball team in action as well. So we had a good time at the Marriott Center, and those events are always fun. My oldest son was Sully from Monsters, Inc. My daughter, she was one of the singers from K-pop Demon Hunters. And then my middle son, Lincoln, he was the Aura King. He was dressed as Ryder Lyons. Yes, it was. Ryder Lyons was my son's costume for Halloween. So if you see a kid out in Murray rocking Ryder Lyons gear on Friday night, trick-or-treating, you know, that's that Cougar Tracks host son, Mitch Harper. That's his kid, Lincoln. Good times. You know what else will be a good time, I think? Lubbock, Texas. You don't say that sentence very often. Never been to Lubbock. I'm not going to judge it until I get out there. People are harsh critics, it seems like, but College Game Day could be out there in Lubbock when BYU takes on the Red Raiders. Wreck 'em. November 8th. Last night on ESPN2, Reese Davis, Joey Galloway, Greg McElroy, Booger McFarland, they had their final college football playoff top 25 preview show. And they were sizing up the potential resume of Texas Tech. And they discussed the Red Raiders. And then Reese Davis dropped a nugget that suggested he might need to stock up on tortillas for potentially an upcoming visit with College Game Day. So it leaves the opportunity for BYU and Texas Tech to be a College Game Day showcase game. That would be really awesome. And honestly, it should be that game. It's a 10 a.m. Mountain Time kick, 11 a.m. Central, which I'll get to my thoughts on that. But College Game Day would be huge. BYU and Texas Tech, a thought on these two programs. These two programs have the potential to be the bell cows of the Big 12 going forward. I do believe that. Texas Tech is investing at an incredibly high level. We all know that. That's always the cliche that every national media member throws out when discussing Texas Tech. Well, they've got a rich roster. They don't ever acknowledge that they got really good coaches. They got just good talent in general. Well, they spent a lot of money on their roster. Well, everyone does that. Why does that not get brought up for the Ohio States? Why does that not get brought up in the analysis of those teams? It's always Texas Tech. Well, they spent a lot of money on their roster. Okay, that's how it has to be when you're a top 25 team in college football these days. But I really believe with the commitment that these programs have, Texas Tech is at an incredible level. I mean, I'm so excited to go out there, see that stadium. I'd love to see their facility because that facility is someone who is a facility junkie. Like, I love looking at photos and press releases of, ooh, this new team facility with a barber shop. I love that stuff. Like, let me see that. And Texas Tech's is S-tier elite status in college football. But BYU, as we have seen, they consistently win. They are investing at a high level. They're getting high-profile prospects into the program. Why can't BYU and Texas Tech maybe become the flag bearers, bell cows that annually you say, you know what, no matter what, new faces, doesn't matter, they're always in the mix. These two programs have that potential. I think the only reason why people are hesitant on Texas Tech is because they've just historically always been 7-5, 8-4. But we got to stop looking at teams from the lens of history, what they were doing in the 90s and the 80s, and say, what are they doing now? What course of action are they implementing into their athletic department now? How are they adjusting to ever-changing rules now? And Texas Tech clearly is adjusting at a high level, and I think BYU's doing a pretty good job as well. And with Kalani Sitake leading the way, I think Joey McGuire's a dang good coach. I think these are going to be some amazing programs going forward into the guts of life in the 16-team Big 12 in this media rights era that goes until 2031. These two programs could be excellent year after year in this conference, and I'm really excited for that game on November 8th in Lubbock, Texas. BYU's first trip to Jones AT&T Stadium since 1940. Last time they visited Lubbock, Texas. And it's a kickoff, again, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Central. Extended pregame from Lubbock will begin with myself and Kyle Ireland at 7 a.m. Mountain Time. So wake up, well, it's not going to be a morning coffee. You got to get a morning swig. Get the morning swig, fire it up, listen to me and Kyle on the KSL Sports app or the KSL NewsRadio app, and we'll have you covered for the Cougs and Red Raiders out in West Texas in Lubbock. But I like the kickoff time. For selfish reasons, as a media member, I like just getting up and covering a game, especially on the road. I love that. But I also think, too, what we're learning, especially from the BYU-Utah game, I thought that BYU-Utah game in prime time on network TV with Big Noon Kickoff promoting it, I thought this is going to get 4, maybe 5 million viewers. Got 2 million viewers. That seemed pretty underwhelming. And I hate the excuse of, oh, tough competition. Well, no, I disagree with that, because if this game, rivalry game, is as special as we think it is, it should have delivered a bigger audience. Who cares about the SEC and this and that? Should have delivered an amazing audience if it's that big of a game as we think. What I learned from that is it's more regional than we think. Still, it doesn't carry national weight, the BYU-Utah rivalry. I think, though, BYU-Texas Tech and these morning slots in college football, Fox has leaned heavily into the 10 a.m. window. Maybe this game gets ABC. ABC SEC games have done incredibly well this year. If this goes on to ABC, I'm sure it hinges potentially on Texas Tech taking down Kansas State, which they haven't done in Manhattan since 2008, and K-State is on the climb. I think this could be a huge audience, and that's what you ultimately want. It's not ideal, because I think typically you'd like a prime time 5 p.m., 6 p.m. kickoff like that BYU-Utah game was, which was awesome. Perfect kickoff. I thought 6 p.m. for BYU and Utah in October was electric. I loved it. But in this era of eyeballs and national college football media defining leagues by their TV viewership, oh, the Big 12's just fallen off a cliff. Well, you got to think outside the box and maybe go to that morning spot. And maybe if you got College Game Day there, maybe that can boost the interest in that game. I'd like to think. But I'm excited to see BYU and Texas Tech. I think this is going to be one heck of a game. And I think the morning spot is pretty cool. First morning game for BYU since 2023 against Oklahoma. Before that, you got to go back to, well, at home, 2004 New Mexico. It's not often BYU plays 10 a.m. Mountain Time kickoffs, but it's also not often you're playing in potentially top 10 showdowns in a conference game, too. That's pretty exciting as well. We'll know the official ranking next Tuesday when the college football playoff rankings come out, but big stage awaits BYU when they come out of this bye week to get ready for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And BYU is going to have a special look when they take on the Red Raiders. Let's hit on that next here on Cougar Tracks, and it's powered by KSLSports.com. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. Every day, daily, Monday through Friday, Cougar Tracks is giving you the latest in the world of BYU sports. Coming up on Monday, BYU basketball takes on the Villanova Wildcats, which you can hear right here on KSL News Radio. Have coverage from Las Vegas for the Cougs and the Wildcats. And for BYU football, next week they'll take on the Red Raiders, as we noted, kickoff at 10 a.m. on November 8th in Lubbock. And when BYU goes down to West Texas, they are going to be rocking a new lid. How about this? BYU announced a new helmet for the BYU-Texas Tech game. It's a royal blue helmet with a Sailor Coug logo, white face mask, alternate Sailor Coug logo, white logo. I think it looks pretty good. I like this look by BYU. The Sailor Coug logo is awesome. I kind of have the nostalgic vibes for the old school 80s, 90s Sailor Coug logo. This is a modern one that they've had for the past decade, since around 2015, 2014, somewhere in there. But I like it. In the Kalani Sitake era, by my count, they've had more than 20 different helmet combinations under Kalani. And look, you might get into a game and then you think, it doesn't look as good as it did on social media. That could be the case. But I think the thing is I like that BYU takes chances and just says, hey, let's go with this in a special game. Let's go with this look. I do like the traditional helmet look, as I've discussed in the past, for the Utah game, which now you can never go to that because the all blue is money for BYU in the BYU-Utah game. But at the same time, I like a new uniform combination, a new helmet to kind of spice things up, because you remember those games, those moments. Oh, Oregon State 2012 blackout game. You remember these games where you roll out something new. Oh, 2019 Washington. This isn't sounding too good with all these losses or these references I'm making here. 2022 Notre Dame. Yeah, this is not sounding good, these special helmets. 2021 Baylor. Oh my goodness. Maybe they should not be rolling out a special helmet here. With all that said, though, I like just taking chances. 2022 New Mexico Bowl, they rolled out the Sailor Coug logo helmet on the black uniforms with Sol-J Mayava Peters, and that looked pretty good. But I think that just adds a fun element to the game to add to the big stage of the contest. And for that, I like that aspect of rolling out a special lid. Texas Tech's going to be wearing all white uniforms, Patrick Mahomes inspired threads. BYU's going to have home blue jerseys in that game. So I got to go back in the archive and see the last time BYU in a true road game in regular season play wore royal blue on the road. I guess Utah game. Yeah, I guess Utah games. But maybe outside of Utah, I can't remember royal blue being worn or navy blue being worn in a road game. I'd have to go dive back into that, because outside of the Utah games, since 2011, there has not been, that I can think of, in a regular season game where they're wearing blue. Because there's always been the, offshoot neutral site games. You play LSU in 2017, you got royal blue. Bowl games, of course, away from home. But regular season games, BYU is going to be rocking royal blue down in Lubbock. I think that adds to a cool element too. BYU's royal blue just pops. And I love that BYU has leaned heavily into royal blue. I love the navy blue still, but that's a supplement color to the royal blue. BYU, they own both blues, according to Kalani Sitake when he first took the job back in 2016. But BYU blue to me is royal blue. There's no doubt in my mind about that. The blue of BYU football and BYU sports in general is royal blue. And that's that. I will not have any debate of that. Navy blue was a nice phase. It was good. And look, still have it. Still have a navy blue lid. I love those sparkly navy blue lids. Love them. But the identity of BYU sports is tethered to royal blue, and they're going to be rocking that in Lubbock, Texas on November 8th. Some early thoughts on this game between BYU and Texas Tech. I cannot wait for this matchup. When we talk about Patrick Mahomes inspired jerseys, I have to think that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes got to be at this game. The Chiefs are on a bye that weekend. They have got to be at this game, I would imagine. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a massive Texas Tech supporter. He loves the Red Raiders. It's his alma mater. He loves them. And Andy Reid, Kalani, this is huge. There was even a report that Vice President J.D. Vance was going to be at the game, but that kind of got derailed. The schedule didn't allow for it. He's got to be in D.C. But this is a huge, huge game. BYU and Tech. It has the potential to take on mystique to the levels of BYU Coastal Carolina, where it just feels like it's building two brands that typically are not in the spotlight, but they take over the college football weekend. It is going to be such a good game, and you hope that BYU can get as much of their personnel available for that game as possible. Because if BYU has the top end of its roster available, that's going to make for an even greater stage and greater game. But again, if BYU's missing a few guys, I still think BYU, with a bye week to kind of strategize and put together a game plan, could be really exciting. And look, Texas Tech's got to figure things out at quarterback. I know Baron Morton's their guy. He's their QB1. But Will Hammond being out for the season, the backup, who I thought was kind of regressing a bit after the Utah game, still makes you kind of think, do they have a proven backup after Baron Morton? They have to turn to that well, because we know Morton has had a long history of injuries during his career, so that's something to monitor as well. But Texas Tech has so much talent. They are so good this year, and they were my preseason pick to win the Big 12, and for BYU to have this chance to go in and be right there blow for blow with them makes for great cinema. It's cinema, pure cinema. Cannot wait for that game down in Lubbock, Texas. I will be there for that one. Myself and Kyle Ireland, we will have you covered with extended pregame beginning at 7 a.m. that day in Lubbock, Texas. But that's going to do it for this edition of Cougar Tracks. I hope all of you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the show. And tomorrow, BYU basketball season preview show. Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun breaking down the season ahead for Cougar Hoops. Year 2 of Kevin Young and this BYU basketball program, the most anticipated season in program history. We're breaking it down tomorrow here on Cougar Tracks, and it's powered by KSL Sports and KSL News Radio.